Hi, and welcome to the Soundschi show where everybody's upside down.
Every day is upside down day in Soundschi land.
In the heat of the night, we could get lost in all the lights and sounds. Feeling alright, we won't go home, we will just stay here downtown. There's not just stars on the boulevard, they're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards, I just need you by my side.
Now, this is a question I've also been asked many times, and the question is, how long will it take me to learn a handstand? So, you might already know that this is very, very hard to answer on a general level, so I'm only gonna try to manage some expectations here. So, whenever you learn a new skill, whatever it may be, it always builds up on what you already have. So, to explain this on a deeper level, neurologically, when you learn something new, you build new neural connections. And these connections are associated with what is already there. So, to give you a practical example, if you have a childhood that is full of movement and you do a lot of different styles of movement, like for example, gymnastics, where you move in many different ways, that's not very specialized, unless you go to a competitive Olympic level or something. Or like me, for example, I did figure skating, which is very specialized, but is still related to dancing and moving in somewhat complex ways. You have a movement map that feeds your training later. So it's like you have experience, and whenever you want to learn something new that is related to it, you have an easier time doing that. So your general movement map that is already there is one factor. The other factor is, do you have all the prerequisites that you need in terms of structural abilities, or is it only the coordinational aspect that you need to learn? So for example, the structural level would be, do you need to change your mobility? Do you need to create a new range of motion in your shoulder to even be able to stand on your hands? Or do you need to create stability in your wrists? Those are all structural things that will take way longer to adapt than the pure learning of the movement, which is just the coordination. So I can, again, give you myself as an example. My structural ability was somewhat there in terms of mobility. I didn't have the capacity to work. Like my wrists would get tired very quickly, or I would get hurt. So I certainly had to build that up. But the main thing that I had to learn was just to articulate balance, which is just coordinating the movements basically. And that takes a lot less time. So for me, it took about until I could really balance a handstand with consistent training. And by that, I mean training 5 to 6 days a week. It took me about, let's say, 2 to 3 months to have a somewhat consistent handstand, maybe nailing it 5 times out of 10, I would say. So in general, I would say, depending on your abilities at the point where you start doing handstands consistently, it can take you from a couple of weeks, really, if you have experience in gymnastics, or if you have done anything that is related to holding yourself on your hands. It can take you from weeks to years of learning a handstand, and it really depends on who you are and what you've done. Now, social media can create a huge disbelief when it comes to the time it takes to learn a handstand. when people post something on Instagram, they usually, or most of the time, they post their best attempts. So when I started, if you scroll back on my page, you will see me doing handstands early in November 2017. And even before that, you will see me doing 10-second handstands. But the truth is that those were maybe one out of I don't know how many attempts, like so many attempts. And if I would nail that, then I was like, yay, I did it. And of course I'm gonna post it to Instagram because I'm proud of it. And when I do handstands now, they might even look the same to somebody who doesn't have the experience of looking at handstands. But the truth is that now I nail 10 out of 10 and I'm very comfortable doing shapes. I'm working on one-arm handstands. I cannot do one-arm handstands at all yet, but I'm on a very different level. I can do presses, and that's just something you don't see. So also when you're training handstands, don't look at it only from a perspective of I can do it or I cannot do it, but also look at the fine things in between, like, does it feel easier? Am I nailing more than I did before? Can I do it outside of the space I'm used to train at? Like, for example, when I started, or even as I was like 8 or 9 months in, I had a pretty consistent handstand, but as soon as I wasn't on a flat floor or inside, as soon as I was outdoors and I wanted to take pictures or like make a nice video with a sequence, it would take me at least a couple attempts to nail that. Oh, by the way, that video you saw at the beginning with Morgan and me on the cliff, that's where I realized that it's not an issue anymore, yay! So it's always good to remember this, that the journey is the destination. I hope this was helpful. As always, if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to comment down below. And also head over to my website, handstanddiary.com, and subscribe to the newsletter. There's a lot of information there that is there to fuel your handstand training and your motivation and keep you at it. So remember that the world is your playground, and just go ahead and do whatever you love. I'll see you next Monday on the Soundschi Show.